Novel Ideas, Chats with Local Authors. I'm your host, Carolyn Luck, and I'm delighted to have two special guests today, Crystal Brown Battle and her daughter, Sydney. Crystal's first book, If Passports Could Talk, is best described in a review by Reader's Favorites. Quote, If Passports Could Talk gives the reader a charming and insightful glimpse of places in the world many of us only dream of visiting. In doing so, it also gives a glimpse into the soul of a world citizen who readily appreciates our differences and unique cultures and eagerly seeks to experience them. It speaks of freedom, family, and adventure from Antarctica to Curacao. So these are my special guests, Crystal and her daughter, Sydney. And Sydney, would you like to tell us how old you are?
I'm 9.5.
You're 9.5. And how many countries have you been to?
About 18.
Wow,
Yeah,
you've certainly got me beat. Okay, so your mom actually has had this passion for traveling for a long time. So Crystal, would you like to tell us where this got started?
Sure, and Carol, thank you for having us here. It's, we greatly appreciate it.
Oh, this is fun.
Yeah, thank you. I started traveling at the age of 7, and my father took our family to France and Switzerland for just a business trip / vacation. And I just started really getting into the different cultures, the foods to try, and it just kept on continuing throughout my childhood, high school, and college. And then we relocated several times growing up due to job opportunities, and I always kind of felt like I was the outsider. So I felt that traveling kind of gave me that niche to explore the world and feel included.
Wow, great. And Sydney, what was your first trip outside the United States?
The Bahamas.
You went to the Bahamas. And the things we're seeing on the news today are not so good. We certainly hope that hurricane gets out of there quickly and the people can recover fairly easily from that. So, Crystal, you dedicated the book to your grandmother. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about her, or a favorite story about her, or?
Sure. My grandmother, she was a librarian, and her first trip abroad was actually in the 1950s to actually the USSR. And she took my cousin to several countries in Africa while he was growing up. And by the time I came along, we got to visit more of the Central American countries with her, like Costa Rica, Belize. Mm-hmm. Favorite stories, she was always there for us, and each time we moved, she would always make sure that I at least had someone to talk to. Mm-hmm. But the reason why the book was dedicated to my grandmother Harriet was she's really the matriarch of the travel within our family. Mm-hmm. She takes, all of us somewhere, shape, or form to a different city, a different country, and she passed in 2001, and I wanted to dedicate my book to her.
Oh, that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So now, you've had a lot of experience. You mentioned a minute ago about moving a lot.
Yes.
And feeling like an outsider. How did that impact your life and your travels and this book in particular?
I know, just always being the new kid on the block, as one says, it's not easy growing up and having to move and have to make new friends. One thing I noticed when I did move to the new cities within the US, that those who were also outsiders came from other countries. So they had to not only get used to a new spot, but also a new country, new culture, and we just gravitated towards each other for the sake of, feeling like we actually had a group.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Sydney, did you have any favorite travel stories or stories from your little girl? Or your mom said something about learning to spell your name with some book you put together. Tell us about that.
So it's a book that my mom ordered online. It taught me how to spell my name. So the first letter S would stand for Spain, and the animal would be a squirrel.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you when you were making this book up?
May have been around 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
Oh,
One of my mother-in-law had found this company that designs books for children and to help them spell their name, and that basically allowed Sydney to explore not only different animals but also different countries and cities around the world. So she took a keen interest on that too,
oh, nice.
just from reading the book.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And it was something she could so easily relate to because it
Yes.
dealt with her name. How nice. So now, Argentina was one place where they made you feel welcome and where
Yes.
you felt like you belonged. Tell us about that.
I ended up signing up for a high school student exchange program. And I had learned Spanish ever since the 7th grade when I was living in California. I wanted to pick a country where I could actually practice my Spanish. And Argentina seemed to be a good fit, primarily because it was the unknown. And I knew it was stable politically. I knew it was relatively close to home. I mean, it's not like it's the South Pacific
It's
or
not
anything.
my definition of close to home.
Compared to some other places. And I decided to take a chance. When I arrived in Buenos Aires and en route to a town called Goja, which is close to the Brazilian border, I was one of about 5 exchange students from the States at the time. And people took a keen interest. Mainly, you know, I did look different than them, but they welcomed me. And they ended up putting me on their own local radio show. And they asked me, how did it feel like being an American in the other American? And I explained to them that even though we're in 2 separate continents, you know, my being in the North America, they've been in South America, we still were one America.
Nice. Very nice. And you were how old? 15?
I was 15. I was a sophomore in high
Amazing.
school.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when you left, I was just intrigued with the fact that you left a special parting gift for your classmates.
Yes. Yes, I love to draw, and I wanted to make something that would be kind of memorable for them. So I ended up drawing the entire class when I attended school out there during the summertime. And, you know, the kids loved it so much that it was hard to pick one person. So they ended up making copies of it for themselves, and then they allowed me to keep the original.
Oh, very, very nice. That must be so special.
It really, and
I'll
we kept up
bet
for quite a
some
few
of them-
times, yes.
I bet you some of them still have that picture today.
It'd be nice.
Now, you also have a very artistic side, and in
Yes.
fact, you had a double major for a time in college.
Yes.
In art and psychology. And you've continued to do art since then, and
Yes.
this is a painting, not a painting, it's, let me see if I can get the light right here. It's actually a collage.
Correct.
Which is your favorite kind of artwork. Now, as a parent and a full-time employee and a everything else world traveler, I don't suppose you have a lot of time for collages now, or do you?
Unfortunately, not as much. But you know, the thing with collage that I really like is that your interpretation will be different from others, and that's the point. The point is, everyone's going to have different opinions about work, and that's the intent of the collage, to make you feel like you're part of it.
Very nice,
Yeah.
very nice. It's also like very often when people write books, the author needs to find something to connect
Yes.
the reader with, and so the artist needs something to connect the viewer with. And
Exactly.
That's very nice. Very interesting. So after traveling all 7 continents, what made you decide to write this book? To put this, I mean, just putting this book together, it's more than just writing.
Exactly. It took me quite a long time to put the book together, about 4.5 years. And you know, a lot of people always ask me, "Okay, Crystal, where are you going next?" And after a while, you know, I always documented where I visited, just because I would love to go back and see, you know, is this a place that I would like to visit again? So I go based on experiences. And the opportunity came by where a family friend, he's an editor, and he approached me and said, "I heard you might be interested in writing a book about your travels." So we took a chance, and that's the final product.
Well, what's so amazing about this book is that it has text on one page and pictures on the other, and you really have to be an artist or have some artistic sense to be able to balance these things and to get it all together. I think it's pretty amazing. When we were kids, there were things called coffee table books.
Yes.
And they were huge hard covers. And when I was about Sydney's age, I remember loving to go to see my parents' friends because I always wanted to look at their coffee table books. But none of them were as rich as what I find in this. They were all pictures of famous landmarks and of places that you just really would want to visit, but they weren't really the people. They weren't about the little, neat little renditions of things that are off the beaten path. And that's what makes this so special. Now, another really, really important part of your life is your family.
Yes.
And there's one picture in the book in Portugal, and you went with Sydney.
Yeah.
So Sydney, do you remember that trip? Or do you want to tell us a little about it?
I went on it's like a wagon, but it's made out of bamboo. And I didn't really like it that much because it went really fast.
Who were you with?
I was with my mom and my grandma.
Your mom and your grandma. Mm-hmm. Crystal, would you like to tell us a little bit more about
Absolutely. It was a toboggan ride, and we were in Madeira. There were two gentlemen who actually used their ankles as brakes. And we ended up sliding down these steep mountains, or roads I should really say, maybe 10, 15 miles per hour, and literally we didn't know if we were going to crash or not. So it was quite an adventure.
So this wasn't a toboggan on snow?
No, it was not. This was on pavement.
Oh
this
my
was on
gosh.
pavement, yes. It was an excursion that I signed the three of us up along with some other adventure opportunities, and I didn't expect this to happen. But it was a great opportunity. I said, let's go for it. And we did, and we did.
And you did. Now, you also have something here you brought from Portugal?
Yes, yes. This is actually a poncho, and it's handmade, very warm, and it's just very sleek, in my opinion.
Oh, I think it's
And
gorgeous.
given that we live in New England, this serves as a nice purpose. If you want to, dress up a little bit, this is a nice way to add a little bit of fanciness to it, but not overdoing it.
Mm-hmm. Very nice, very nice. And now, how does your husband fit into all of these travel plans?
Trevor likes to travel. I don't think he loves to travel in the same way that I do, or Sydney, or my mom, but he did participate in several trips, like Sydney's first to the Bahamas, as well as Cuba, which we had the opportunity to go last year.
Aha. And Sydney, you have something sitting over there on that little table that came from Cuba. Would you tell us about that?
It's a baseball that I got from Cuba, and it has their flag, and it says Cuba on it.
So that's a very special souvenir, huh? Okay. Well, we're just about out of time for this segment, and so we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll delve more into this book, If Passports Could Talk.
Great.
So stay tuned, and we'll be back in a minute.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it,
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got, or C, show solidarity?
Thank you, baby.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to Novel Ideas. We're here with Crystal Brown Battle and her daughter Sydney, and we're talking about her book, If Passports Could Talk. And Sydney's in this book as well, so she's a real good special guest to have with us. So welcome back. So where did you come up with the idea for this title, If Passports Could Talk?
I basically came up with the idea where I wanted a title that was catchy but also simple. And usually when people come back from an overseas trip, they like to look at their passports. And the passports, I'm sure, have many stories behind the trips. So after, playing around with some words, I finally came up with If Passports Could Talk, and I asked for some feedback from, some trusted family members and friends, and all were in favor of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds good. I would like to see your real passport. Sure, it's got a ton of stamps on it. Now tell us about this picture on the cover.
Sure. This picture is basically a door jam in New Zealand, and I attended a Kiwi dance opportunity out there, and I just thought that the door was just absolutely beautiful, the artwork, the intricate design. And so I ended up taking a picture of it and just tucking it away. When I realized that I was going to start writing a book, after looking through some photos of different trips that I had taken, this one caught my attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's interesting is the figure in this picture is sticking out its tongue.
Yes.
Is there significance to that?
Actually, yes. Basically, the Kiwi folks, the tongue is basically a mode of defense against the enemy. And at least that's what was explained to me when I went to New Zealand.
So this was to keep you safe.
Basically to keep me safe, yes.
Okay. Now I love the poem you start the book with, and this to me is an absolutely beautiful sunrise sort of picture. And this short poem just really encompasses everything. Do you mind if I read it?
I don't mind at all.
It's titled Freedom. The wake of the wind brings chills across my face as I embrace the facts of life. As time passes by, I look into the sky and see freedom within me rise mighty high. This is life. Live it to the fullest. And this spirit permeates the book, and it's just such a perfect introduction.
Thank you.
And I feel like we are talking about 32 years and 55 countries in this book.
Yes.
And it's not something huge and enormous like an encyclopedia. So that's pretty cool. Of the 55 countries, Sydney, which one's your favorite?
Oman and Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay. And what was so special about Oman?
I got to see my cousin Vanessa, which I only get to see once every 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm. And so what, you and Vanessa just like hanging out together? Is she about your age?
I think she's 11.
So she's a little bit older than you. But you're good pals, I bet.
This was Sydney's first time in the Middle East, and we have family that actually lives in Muscat, Oman, and the youngest is about 2 years older than Sydney, and we thought it would be a nice opportunity for a family reunion out there.
Great.
And she and Vanessa hit it off really well, and they were literally inseparable. When we came back to the States, the two vowed to keep in touch, and they have.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Very nice. Now, authors are always told, and one of the most common pieces of advice is write what you know.
Yeah.
And this book clearly is something that you know, inside, upside down, and backwards. And so that part's easy for you.
Right.
But what I find so intriguing about this book is the fact that you can fit so much information on one page.
Yeah.
There is only one page of text for each country.
Right.
But you really give us a feel for the country, and I'd like for you to read a little bit about Cambodia.
Sure.
Because that one just really strikes me nice, and we have some really cool pictures there too.
Absolutely. I think my guide to this World Heritage Site, Mr. Ta, took a keen interest in me because I had brown skin and traveled solo. He can also tell from my thoughtful questions that I was an adventure traveler who wanted to leave the beaten track and learn not just to see the sights. He asked if I trusted him, and I said yes, or I wouldn't have signed up. He then led me to the Angkor Wat temples on a road that other guides avoid, concerned about liability, I suppose, since Cambodia is still salted with landmines. We walked barefoot along paths, sticky with warm mud, through lush greenery, and it was monsoon season. And suddenly, looming before us above the trees, I saw the decaying temples and the moss-encrusted stone walls and towers, their colors rich and glistening from the rain that drenched us along the way. The tree I peeked through seems to be Mother Nature reclaiming the work of man.
Yes, and there's a picture of you
Yes.
peeking through these tree roots. And that to me is so symbolic of how well you totally embed yourself
Yes.
in every culture, every place you go. I mean, that picture to me was just so perfect for if I could choose one picture
Yeah.
to describe what you felt like in these different cultures. That was so perfect.
And it's a sense of belonging, which I mentioned before. You know, when traveling abroad, I find at least one thing that I can connect to, and a lot of times it's with nature.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Well, I think you're not only a world traveler elsewhere, but you've been a number of places in the United
Yes.
States. And I loved your few little tidbits about New Orleans too. That's one of my favorite cities.
Oh, yeah.
But there's a trip you took to Florida. And my very, very favorite picture in the entire book is a picture of Sydney with somebody. Would you like to tell us about this? What did you do in Florida?
I visited a lot of characters, Disney princesses, and my favorite of all there was meeting Tiana.
Yes, and that picture, just about everyone who goes to Disney World has a picture of that big castle.
Yes.
And to me, this picture, it has just so much warmth and so much of truly belonging and feeling like you're there and like Tiana has known you forever. Is that how you felt too? Yeah. I see that big smile on your face. So this book is really unlike any other. I mean, there are travels off the beaten path. You start your journeys kind of with a totally open mind,
Yeah.
but how do you figure out where you end up?
There's several components when I pick a place. Obviously, I want a place that's safe. I need a place that I can be comfortable putting my head down at night and not risk running out for a security reason. I also like to go to places that have at least one new activity or journey that I've never experienced before. And I usually talk to friends who are either from the country or I talk to my travel agent. You know, I always ask for feedback before making a decision. And then third of all, affordability. You know, I don't get any grants while I'm traveling, and this is not my job. This is something I really enjoy doing. So I have to be mindful with the budget. So places I pick, I try not to go during the peak season. I go during a time where, you know, there are fewer tourists and it might not be the best weather-wise, but that's how I usually pick a place.
Mm-hmm. Oh, amazing. And so you mentioned you look for exciting and new things to do. And
Absolutely.
along here you've brought a picture of going windsurfing, and I believe Sydney's in this picture as well. Was this exciting, Sydney, or how did you feel?
At first, when the man started running so we can get up in the air, it felt weird because I was just floating up.
Uh-huh.
And
But
it
did
was
you
really
like it?
high.
Did you like it?
And he was just like, the only thing that was carrying the guy was like 5 strings.
That's true. He had no harness. So this is kind of like parasailing by land. So you run with the, what they call it, the jumper, and eventually the boat will sail you up in the air. But he will jump onto your ropes, but he has nothing holding him. And then within 25 feet, give or take, upon landing, He will jump off the parasail, and you will basically float into the hands of 3 other parties, and they will slow you down.
Oh my gosh. Now, where was this?
Where was that, Sydney? Do you remember?
It was in Thailand.
Yes,
That was in
Thailand.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to give her that opportunity. I've done the parasailing before in Dominican Republic, so I knew it would be a great opportunity for her. And I told her, if you want to do it, you know, look at some of the other participants. And she took a chance, and she loved it.
Well, you never know, right? Until you grab a hold of those ropes. It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, I'm so glad you had a better experience than the toboggan.
Yes.
That's really nice. So, did we talk about, oh yes, we talked about the hijab, putting that on in Dubai. So what's next?
Do you know what's next? You want to tell everyone where we're going next?
We're in February. Me and my mom are going to China
Where else?
Wow.
and Tokyo.
Tokyo, Japan.
In Tokyo.
Oh my gosh. So your mom is very busy making all of these plans right now.
This will be a cruise that the 2 of us will take, and we fly into Shanghai, China, and then the cruise will start from China, and it'll take us through much of Japan, including Tokyo. And then it'll return to Shanghai, and then we come back to the States. So it's a 7-night cruise.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you two, you have really got your hands full trying to get all of these things together.
Yes.
You do this in your spare time, right?
Yes, but these are, you know, great educational opportunities for Sydney. And,
Oh,
you know,
of
we do live in a
course.
world where, you know, it's global competition. And, you know, she's going to end up, you know, competing against students from all over the world. So by Sydney learning these different cultural experiences early on, I think she has an advantage.
Oh, yes, she's one very lucky young lady, I can certainly say that. And I think the best part of your travels is the understanding that you cultivate of these different cultures and actually becoming part of them. And I think this is really what gives so much meaning and depth to this wonderful little book. And so it's just been such a pleasure to have you here. I'm so happy that you were both able to make it because Sydney's sort of a special person.
You are.
She's having travels, and just think of all the places you'll still have left to go when you get to high school and beyond. So we're very happy about that. Could you tell us where our viewers could find this book?
Sure. There's Amazon, as well as the publisher called BookBaby. And I also keep a small supply as well, where if people want me to sign it, I can do that as well. But Amazon is the main seller,
Yeah.
and they partner with other places like Barnes & Noble.
Okay, oh, excellent. And I'd like to thank our crew here at Access Framingham. You guys are so much fun to work with. And I'm
you.
just absolutely delighted that I can bring in guests like this. We can talk about books of all different kinds. And half the fun of this job is getting to meet people like Crystal. And so it's just been delightful. And to you, our viewers, I say thank you. Glad you were able to join us for another chat with a local author. And we'll see you next time.